This demonstration of SSI Tools for Project, PowerPoint, and Excel runs approximately 1 hour. It was recorded November 17th during a live session. You can register for live sessions using the link shown in the recording. Thank you for your interest in SSI Tools. Now let's get started. I wanted to start just showing you the SSI Tools website, good resource for the new SSI Tools users. You can scroll down just a bit. You'll see these tiles here. These will show you just our main product groups. You can click any one of those. And after you click that, it'll take you to a page that's going to show you an overview of that tool. But then there is a short video associated with every one of those that introduces that tool. And you can also go to our YouTube site by clicking on this icon up here. That'll take you to our YouTube site where we post a lot of how-to videos. And you can watch those as frequently as you like. Some of those have little exercises that you can do along the way where you can pause and rewind those and do the exercise at your own pace, your own time. We also do somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 hours of training, live training every month with a host. Such as what we're doing right now. And this is the schedule. We've got 2 more scheduled this week. Another demonstration for new users, and then SSI Presentation Professional Parts 1 and 2 coming up on Thursday, I believe that is. And that's probably about all that we'll do for the month of November. And December's probably the same thing. We'll pack it all into the beginning of the month of December. Because due to the holidays and so on. But you can always go to this site. In fact, I'm going to send that to you in the chat. So you're gonna receive a link in the chat. This site here, you can go to there from time. You can go there from time to time. Look at all of the training products that we have. Here's a list of all of the courses that we have, and you can download any of the course materials. I also attached to the handout section of the webinar. If you can go look at that, an overview of all of the SSI Tools features. You can grab that. We do Microsoft project training as well, 7 different lessons. We don't do those as often as the SSI Tools. We try to do about 1 of those per month, and that's because we share those materials with another company. We have to pay royalties on those. Royalties cost us, somewhere between 10 and 20 bucks per student. But we usually do 1 free one, no cost session for the SSI Tools with maintenance and support agreements. But if you have a team and you want your team to go through Microsoft project training, it's very reasonable if you want to set one up for your team, and it's really just a materials cost is all it is. Here with these links, you can download any of the session materials with the exception of the Microsoft project session materials. We give you an outline of what those cover, but we can't give you the materials because of the licensing agreement that we have. And over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's links to some of the how-to videos. That'll take you to our YouTube channel also, and of course you can browse the YouTube channel and watch any of the other videos that you like. So again, SSITools.com. And without further ado, I'm going to jump right into Microsoft Project and start showing you everything that you can do with SSI Tools. All of your microphones are enabled. You guys can ask questions if you have them. I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side. So over here with the Trace Driving Path Tools. I've configured this using the Advanced Trace Tools form, but I want to show you that you can, once you've configured that form, you can just click this button and up pops your driving path to whatever item you had selected. If I open up the form, you'll see that I selected to trace predecessors. So I had row number 7 selected, my critical design review. It walked back through all of the work stream connected to critical design review, and it told me all of the items that are driving that task. I decided to show the results as a cascading waterfall. I could show everything with the context of the project's hierarchy or summaries, work breakdown structure, but I chose to show them as a waterfall like this. Sometimes that's a good analysis, easier for your team to to make decisions based on the chronological order that things are done in the schedule. And I also chose to get everything that has 0 days of driving slack. And one of the things I want to show you here, I want to point this out, is that red is what Microsoft Project thinks is the critical path, and blue is what Microsoft Project thinks has some slack or schedule flexibility. And notice that this driving path has both red and blue. In fact, most of the tasks on this driving path are blue, meaning Microsoft Project doesn't think that they're critical, but I guarantee you that these are all drivers to this date. So if you're trying to inspect your project and determine why your critical design review is on June 4th, these are the drivers. If you increase the duration of any one of these tasks, I'm going to prove this to you. So if I increase the duration of that task by just 1 day, watch what happens to critical design review. In fact, watch what happens to all of these other tasks. They get shifted and critical design review gets shifted. Even though it's blue, even though this task right here on row 37 is blue, that does not mean that it will not impact the critical design review if that's the one that I selected as the focus of my analysis. When you use SSI Tools to do a driving path analysis, it doesn't matter what Microsoft Project thinks is critical or what Microsoft Project thinks has slack or total slack or free slack. It inspects the project and it inspects the item that you have selected, and it walks back through all of the predecessors in the entire work stream leading up to that item, and it tells you every single task that would have a direct impact on the critical design review. That's actually called a driving path analysis. It's not called a critical path analysis. It's called a driving path analysis because you're selecting the endpoint and it's showing you what's driving that endpoint. And Microsoft Project actually does that on the Format menu. It's got a feature called the Task Path, and you can highlight the driving path, and it does that. It highlights the driving path in orange. But if you're looking at your whole project, you're going to have to go find all of those orange tasks. So using the built-in feature in Microsoft Project, you're going to have to go find all of those orange tasks and figure out how to display those so that your team can make decisions on those. So the orange tasks is how Microsoft Project does a task path analysis. We do it like this. Just click a button. It gathers them all up. There they are. So great tool. I use that one a lot. Probably the first tool we ever developed. Just below that is a button called Show All Tasks. That'll remove any sorting, filtering, organizing that SSI Tools did and return the project back to its original condition. You can also open this advanced form and you can display that path a number of different ways. You can show that path with the context of the project's hierarchy. So there's all the orange tasks gathered up. By the way, you don't have to have this feature on where Microsoft Project is highlighting them is in orange. I kind of like to turn it off because I like to see which ones are critical to that milestone, critical design review, but I also like to see the ones that are critical to the end of the project. Anything that's red here is a critical driver to the end date of the project, but not necessarily to the critical design review if that's the item that you had selected for analysis. You can also trace these things one by one. So you can click on this tab right here. You can click on any task and you can see all of its predecessors and successors and their dates. And you can use this form right here to just go to those items. So I'm going to show all tasks. I'm going to come back up here to my critical design review. Critical design review has a successor. There it is. That one has a successor. There it is. Every time I double click, it takes me to that item. You can see that it's moving around in the Gantt chart table and actually taking me to that item. This view right here is similar to splitting the screen in Microsoft Project and looking at predecessors and successors. It just gives you more information, and the double click feature is enabled where it'll actually take you to the item rather than opening up the task form, which is what Microsoft Project would do if you're looking at predecessors and successors this way. There's another version of that where it'll just show the dependencies for you. So if I scroll back up here to Critical Designer View, and maybe I want to see some of its predecessors. So there's one, there's a predecessor, and that one has a predecessor, and that one has a predecessor, and this one has 3 predecessors. So I can walk back as far as I want, and then I can change directions and walk forward if I want to, looking at successors. So I started with Critical Designer View. I took a look at a few of its predecessors and their predecessors, and then I went forward a couple of steps and looked at its successors. So just a great tool for analyzing the workflow dependencies in a project. If I go back to this main form here, you can trace successors. So if you want to see what follows Critical Designer View, you can look at that. So instead of seeing what precedes, you can see what follows that is being driven by the Critical Designer View. So if the Critical Designer View, if its date changes, these 2 tasks here are going to be affected by that date change. That's what that's telling you. So if you're interested in knowing who will be impacted if the Critical Designer View date changes, these 2 tasks will be impacted. And if you want to see go the other way and see the predecessors, just click that button and away you go. You can also get secondary and tertiary paths, so you can see what's on the primary, secondary, and tertiary driving path if you like. So here I'm showing in the first group all of the primary drivers, and here I'm showing the secondary drivers. This is always a great opportunity for me to introduce you to our PowerPoint tools because often you need to show primary, secondary, and perhaps even tertiary driving path, or sometimes they call it critical path, but this would be a driving path analysis to my Critical Designer View. First group is all the primary drivers. The second group is all the secondary drivers. And SSI Tools actually logs that in text field 10 or whatever text field the user selects. So you can select any available text field in your project for this logging feature. You have to pick a field for the logging feature, and you have to pick one that's not being used in your project for any other purpose, because it's going to wipe that out and replace it with its own analysis notes. Anyway, I have done an analysis of my primary and my secondary drivers, and I'm going to go here I'm going to pop open PowerPoint and just introduce you to our PowerPoint tool. And I don't need any of that. What I would like to do is I'd like to bring those tasks into Microsoft PowerPoint. I'm going to show you how to do that 2 ways. The easiest way is I just click that button, and it's just going to go gather up those tasks and make a PowerPoint page out of the tasks that I have selected in Microsoft Project. And it's just that easy, just that simple. And I know that this group right here is my primary group. And so I could add a swim lane around that, and I could say this is primary, and make a little swim lane around that. And then I can say these are all my secondary drivers, and I'll do a swim lane, but I'll pick a different color, something like that. There you go. But I'm going to show you another way that I can do that, where I can actually read those SSI Tools notes that it put in text field 10. I can actually say, if I go to the advanced import form, I can say read the notes that are in text field 10, because that identifies certain task attributes or task codes that they mean something. So text 10 in Microsoft Project tells me whether it's a primary task or a secondary task, and I can tell the PowerPoint tool to read that and do something with that. And so I'll import that now, and it'll just color code the tasks with one color for the primary and another color for the secondary. And so I don't have to make the swim lanes It just color codes the tasks and gives the user a legend down here at the bottom. So great tool. Love this SSI Presentation Pro tool. When your project changes, you can click this button after you've made a page and it'll update that page for you. So if you go into Microsoft Project, let me copy that. I'm going to duplicate that slide here so we can see the difference. I'm going to go into Microsoft Project, and let's say the team says, man, we want to accelerate our critical design review. So, let's try to get this done in, how about 15 days? And we'll try to get some of these other ones done a couple of days early also. So we'll pick on a couple of these tasks here and try to pull that back. So we were able to accelerate the date for the critical design review. And now that's going to be different than what I have on this page here. And so I can update this page simply by clicking that button right there. It'll go fetch the current dates out of Microsoft Project, and you'll see that it's going to adjust all of these things and shorten up the duration of those tasks that had their dates altered, and it'll accelerate the critical design review. And I have a bunch of nice tools over here where I can add dates to selected shapes. So maybe I want to put the finish date on the right-hand side of the text that describes that little milestone point right there, so that my users know that that's occurring on May 27th. And you can do that for any one of the items. This is our PowerPoint tool. You'll know that you have this if you go into PowerPoint and you have SSI Presentation Pro and you have all of this collection of buttons here. We're doing some training on this, 2 hours of training on this on Thursday. So sign up for that one if you're interested in learning more about this tool here. Otherwise, I'm going to go further into the add-in for Microsoft Project and show you all the other tools and features here, or at least whatever I can do in the remaining 45 minutes or so. So that's the trace tool. Then we have schedule health and integrity audits. You can do the DECM tests. You can do the 14-point assessment using these tools here. So DECM is a new collection. It replaced the 14-point assessment. DCMA just expanded that. Now there's actually 133 things that they check, but only 37 or so of them can be tested out of the project. So this is the collection of items that can be tested out of the project. So if you're familiar with the 14-point assessment, well, it's just grown to 37 or 39 point assessment. And this will get that job done for you. This will still do the 14-point assessment and the custom audits that you can create and individual audits. So for example, if I want to look at this project and I want to identify maybe all of the items that have invalid status, meaning that we haven't posted status correctly on those tasks, then I can pick one of those, any of these audits out individually. There's a whole bunch of them in here. Progress posted out of sequence, invalid status, dangling starts, dangling finish, and so on. I can batch them all up, so I can select collections of these audits and run them at the same time. I can run the 14-point assessment, or I can build my own audit using the audit builder. So this is a great tool. I love this one. It's always good to use after you're done posting status with your team. Check your project and make sure it conforms to all of the industry standard best practices, and that'll get that job done for you. If I'm in this project and I go to the project menu and I roll the status date forward by a week or so, well, then that's going to create some tasks that I need to status. So it moves the red status line, and then I need to post progress on some tasks in this project here. And for that, we have a nice tool that you can use to post status. So if I open this up, it'll read the project's status date, 3/13 of 2020, and it'll read the task's current start and finish dates. It'll read both the actual dates and the forecasted dates, and it tells me that you have a forecasted date that's behind the project status date. You need to address that, and it color codes that in yellow. And it'll do that for every task. I can scroll through the project either by either myself, so I can click on a task and then come back over here, and then this will refresh itself and tell me that you've got some things you need to address in this project. So this is telling me that that I've got tasks that are either in progress or they're behind the status date, and I haven't properly addressed the dates. They need to be updated, and the yellow highlight indicates the date that needs to be addressed by my team member. So that's our post status tool. When you're statusing, it's a great idea to monitor your milestones, and that's what the watch list does. So the watch list gets all of the dates for all of the key project milestones or whatever you select. You can select a bunch of items and go capture their dates. And then when I'm posting status with my team member, I'll pick on this task right here, and I'll say, nope, we didn't finish that. And since we're posting status all the way through to March 13th, I better put the finish date sometime after March 15th, and then I'll post that to Microsoft Project. Now I want to see, did that cause an issue? Did that create negative slack, or did that delay any of these milestones here? Well, I can check for variances, and it says, yep, you sure did. You moved your system definition review by 11 days because you moved that task. Then I can work with my team members and say, well, that would be unacceptable. So maybe we can overlap these two tasks here with a finish to finish dependency. Let's see what that does. That helped, but I still have some ground to make up here because my system definition review is still 5 days behind. That's when you can go to the system definition review, use the trace driving path tool that I was showing you earlier, and then your team can look at all the opportunities that you have to make up ground related to that system definition review. So again, you might want to overlap a couple of tasks or shorten their duration, whatever you and your team decides needs to be done to to get yourself back on track. I overachieved there a little bit. Now I'm ahead by a couple of days. These are positive numbers, not negative numbers, and that means I accelerated the schedule rather than delay it. So there's the watch list. You can watch two sets of dates for your selected items. So if you want to watch your current dates on one tab and you want to monitor your baseline dates on another tab, you can do that. And then you just check for variances. And this will show you variances to your baseline. This will show you variances to the current date in the schedule. You can use that for, you can get all the milestones in the project. You can flag certain key milestones and get their dates, or you can just select items and you can get the finish date, the deadline date, the baseline finish, or any of the other finish dates that can be recorded in finish 1 through finish 10. While we're on the topic of posting status, that's a great time for me to go into Microsoft Excel and show you the SSI tools for Excel. So I'll just pop a blank, empty Excel workbook open and show you that we've got a status turnaround workbook tool. And so you make a template for statusing. This is to create a to-do list for members of your project team. And then you configure this form right here. This just says, what do you want to show to your user? How far ahead do you want to look in the project? I'm going to look 45 days out, so 45-day look ahead. And I'm going to exclude all the tasks that are finished. And then I'm going to go get tasks according to the value that's in text 2, which happens to be my organizational breakdown structure. I'm going to take this template, make a copy of it for all the members of the project team, and then I'm going to go fetch their tasks out of Microsoft Project. So now it'll go get tasks that need to be addressed, things that are within that 45-day window, or items that need to be statused, right away, and it'll return the results to Excel spreadsheets like that. And it lets the system engineering team know that that task should start and that task should finish, and all 3 of these should finish, and that one right there should start. So it gives them the same yellow highlights that we would do over here in the Microsoft Project side using this post task status tool. And then of course they can fill those out and bring them to the status meeting, or they can send them back to you guys if you're the schedulers, and you can incorporate their updated dates and so on. Or you can just schedule a meeting with them and review the sheet, whatever you want to do. There is a feature here where you can post these back to Microsoft Project. I recommend actually sitting down with the team member, just giving them this as a heads up, look ahead, get prepared for status, go gather up all of this information from your team, and then get back to us, and let's incorporate that into the schedule. That's how I like to use these sheets. And you get one of these for every member of the team. Some people have nothing to do. Some people have just a couple of tasks to do, and some people have plenty of tasks to do. I'll close that. There's the status turnaround workbook. There's the ability here to go find those tasks in Microsoft Project or filter Microsoft Project for those tasks. If you decide you need more information about the tasks, you can take the unique ID here, and you can copy it over to the last column, and then based on the unique ID, you can look up other things like maybe you want to see what the OBS is. This tool right here will look for the last column, and it expects the last column to be the unique ID, and then it'll get additional information based on column titles that you type here. Lots of performance reports are available using this tool as well. So I can take this project and go fetch current performance information. So it's going to go get the performance data out of that project and report it to me in standard reporting formats. And these reporting formats and metrics are things that you'll see in a document called the Planning and Scheduling Excellence Guide. So the Planning and Scheduling Excellence Guide describes all of these metrics like CEI, SPI, BEI. Baseline duration is telling me that I was supposed to do 217 days worth of work, and then my earned baseline duration says I only did 96 days worth of work. So my baseline said I was supposed to do 217, I only did 96. So I have schedule variances. A nicer way to look at that would be graphically, and so we provide it this way as well. So this says there's your 217 that you were supposed to do. There's your 96 that you did. That's a deficit of 121 days worth of work that you're behind the project's baseline. That's what this orange bar shows, and any numbers showing below zero, those are considered unfavorable variances. And so here's your basic work planned, work performed, and then how long it actually took you to do the 96 days worth of work. So it took me 107 days to do 96 days worth of work according to the baseline. This little green bar here tells me that you haven't status. You got 90 days worth of work in the schedule that you haven't status, so you've got a bunch of invalid status. You really need to take this project and go through it and update all of the tasks that require statusing, like all of these here. So that's a preview of our Excel tool. We've got a nice little tool here that you can use to adjust end dates. So you can pick end dates using a calendar. That's a handy little feature there. So if you want to bump the end date of that task out to the 19th, you just double click on it and away it goes. You don't have to calculate the number of days yourself to reach that date. You just pick the date off the calendar. Once you're done posting status, I'll go ahead and do that. In fact, I'm going to take my project and I'm going to move my status date. Well, I'll leave it where it is because I'll do a weekly report. But I'll go to SSI Analysis Tools, and I'll just do a real simple report. First thing I'll do, though, is I will update everything in the project. So I'm just going to cheat there and say mark on track. Normally, you would go through and update tasks with all of your team members, but I'm going to cheat and just say mark on track. That'll update everything. Now I'm ready to get a performance report. This is a little quick one here that'll break the project up by weeks. And so it'll tell me week by week how many tasks I was supposed to finish. So week 1, I was supposed to finish 6. I finished 2. By this week here, the week that begins March 13th, I was supposed to finish 30. I only finished 20. And then in the week of March 18th, it looks like I'm going to make up a lot of ground because I'm projecting that I'm going to finish 28 out of 30 tasks that are supposed to be done by that time. And you can export this to Excel, and it'll make a nice little report that you can use to calculate baseline execution index, or BEI, as it's commonly referred to. This is what that report looks like. I like this one a lot. It tells me a lot of useful information about the project. It says that we right off the bat we were doing pretty good, and then the last couple of weeks we started to lose a little bit of ground. This is a live Excel chart and a live Excel table, and you can come in here and do anything you want. So if you want to add BEI, a BEI calculation in here, you can do that. It's a real simple calculation. It's just column C divided by column B, and it's usually expressed in just 2 decimal places like that. 0.33 would be my BEI. That would be valid all the way through until that date there. And then this, I would probably want to put in another column, because I would probably want to call this my forecasted BEI or projected BEI, something like that in this report. And then I got to change the formula because it's going to be this. It's going to be D divided by B, and there's the result. So it looks like I'm going to make up a lot of ground between these 2 months here. I'm going to go from 0.67 to 0.93. That means I'm doing 93% of what I was supposed to do. And take a look. Look, we eventually we get back to 100%. And someone might ask you, well, what's your plan to do that? How are you going to jump from this level of performance to this level of performance? And you and your team ought to have a story to that for that. That's the performance report. Find on the Excel sheet is something that you can use. So if you've got a Microsoft Excel sheet open and you're looking for some of these tasks here, you can click either Find or Filter Excel. So you can apply a filter in Excel that'll just look for tasks or items in Excel with these same names, or whatever value you're interested in. So if these have an organizational breakdown structure assigned to them, you can click in this column right here and say, hey, go find everything on my Excel sheet that belongs to this OBS system engineering. In Excel, you would have to have something that matches that, and it would have to be in a column that you can decode to it either has to say OBS, or you'll have to map it to something that'll track to OBS. Toolbox is real handy. Lots of handy little tools here, like you can select a whole bunch of tasks and add common predecessors or common successors or a common prefix or suffix. You can make sure that the text is in proper case. You can replace text. For the life of me, I don't understand why Microsoft Project doesn't have some of the capability of the other Office tools, where you can just select a range and say, find and replace. But believe it or not, it doesn't have that. So if I wanted to select all of these items right here and do a real simple replace, then I would say, hey, find the letter S, for example, and replace it with the letter X, and it'll search all of the selected fields, and you can see that it did exactly what I told it to do. Not sure I'd want to do that. I'd probably want to undo that a few times. Fortunately, it's undoing each one individually, but get rid of that. The other things you can do on the toolbox are you can trim text. That's going to remove leading and trailing zeros. And then it's got something called the slack evaporator. So if you have tasks that have high amounts of free slack, it'll examine those tasks. So there's a couple of tasks that have lots of free slack. It'll examine those tasks, and it really only looks for tasks that haven't started yet. So probably look at this task right here. So this task has 15 days of free slack, meaning it can move 15 days before it starts to bump into its nearest successor. And the Slack evaporator is where you can say, hey, look for anything that has more than 10 days of Slack, just in the current selection that I have, and scoot them over so that they have 2 days or so of Slack, and put a little note in the notes field letting me know that you did that. And so that'll take that task with lots of Slack, and it'll bump it over there and get it to where it has 2 days or less. In this case, it ended up with less than 2 days of Slack relative to its next successor. That's the Slack evaporator. And then we have the UNCFact XML export. If you have to do those reports, that'll get that job done for you. If you're interfacing with Encore Analytics, Empower tool, this will create an export for you that you can read into the Encore Analytics Empower tool. This is a nice one here because sometimes you want to know all of the custom fields that are used in the project, and this will go figure that out for you. So in fact, if you have more than one project open, and I do, it's telling me all of the custom fields that are being used in all of the open projects, and you can export that to Excel. So it says duration 1 is being used as my SRA most likely. Duration 2 is SRA best case duration, and so on. It even shows me if a field has a formula in it. So it says number 1 is called current schedule variance, or current SV, and it has a formula. And that's real handy. You can also use this to get unused fields in the project. So if you want to see if you've got an available text field that's not being used for any other purpose, this will go figure that out for you. So it'll examine text field 10, and it says in this project, text 5 is not used, and 6, and so on. So it'll give me all of the unused text fields, meaning there's nothing, no task has any value in that field. Both of those are real handy. Get timescaled values and SRA, we gave those a promotion, and we put those on the menu. They're all by themselves. So get timescaled values will give you an analysis of the resources that are assigned in the project, and so you can add things like total Slack, free Slack, organizational breakdown structure, the contact name, and then you can ask for remaining work values, or you can ask for cost. You could ask for baseline values, any combination of these things. I'm going to get work, and I'm going to get my remaining work values, and I'm just going to go ahead and run that, and give it a couple seconds, and then up pops the data that I can use to make pivot tables out of this project. So now I can insert a pivot table, or even a pivot chart, I suppose, where I can say, I would like to see the hours by, let me see the hours by, I want to see my organizational breakdown structure first. And then after my organizational breakdown structure, I want to see the resources that are used. So that's telling me the OBS, the resources that the OBS are using. And then I want to see the period of time, and then I want to see the amount, which is value. And so that tells me that my development OBS is using these resources in these amounts during these periods of time. Or I might want to see that as FTE values, so full-time equivalent heads. And then I can, of course, I can collapse this just like that. And down here at the bottom, it tells me how many full-time equivalent heads I need on this project month by month. I'm going to close that because if you're not handy with pivot tables, it'll make one for you. So you can tell it to make a pivot table automatically, and then you click that button, and up it pops with the pivot table already made. It's a standard pivot table, pretty basic pivot table that just gives you the resource and then the amount of the resource by every reporting period. And away you go. that's our time skilled analysis tool. And then we have the schedule risk analysis and sensitivity analysis. I'm going to open up a document and just show you what that looks like instead of generating one of those for you, because I would have to open up a different project to do that. So this document is attached, and so if I go down here to the SRA and sensitivity analysis, it produces a report that looks like this. You have to do a lot of hard work in this schedule. You have to work with your team members, and you have to assign best case and worst case duration values to all of the tasks in the project. Once you've done that, this will generate an analysis that looks like this, that tells you what the cumulative probability of making any particular date is. So if you want to find out, hey, what's the cumulative probability of accomplishing this particular milestone, my ship milestone, or my PDR or my CDR or my TR, whatever the milestone is, you look at the intersection of this axis here. It says October 29th. It says that you've got about it looks like about a 4% chance of hitting that date on the head, just nailing that date exactly, but you've got about a 90, maybe a 95% chance or so on of making that date or earlier. So the line is the project's probability of making that date or earlier. The bar is the probability of hitting that date right on the nose. And then you can also generate a chart that looks like this, that says, hey, I want to look at my test readiness review, and I want to look at opportunities to accelerate or risks to delay my test readiness review. And again, based on your best case and worst case and most likely durations for those tasks, it'll say these are the tasks in the project that you ought to be paying really close, careful attention to. Perform software code and unit test has a risk of delaying your test readiness review by 7.5 days. If you're looking for opportunities to accelerate your test readiness review, you go look at perhaps this task here, row 83. It says you could potentially improve the date for test readiness review by 2.3 days if you can accelerate test readiness review and move it all the way back to its best case duration. So sensitivity analysis just finds the tasks that have the most impact on whatever event you're performing the analysis on, and that's what those tools do. Copy and paste assignments is just a way for you to pick up the assignments from one task and go apply them to any other task in the schedule. So I have I've picked up the assignments from task 34. And if those are the same assignments, resource assignments I want to make to this collection of tasks right here, I just click that button, and it'll either paste it'll paste the resource. It'll apply the resource to that task either by its units, which means in this case 1 full-time head, or by its amount, which means it'll put 3.2 hours on all those tasks regardless of what their duration is. And I'll call you guys. Have been quiet. Anybody have any questions? You guys can ask, or you can enable your microphone and ask questions if you have them. Raise your hand if you have a question. Type the question in. Anything like that. We've got a big crowd on, and no one's asking any questions. But if not, I'll just keep on going. All right. So that's copy and paste assignments. And then we have bridge tools. So if you're using Deltek Cobra, Deltek MPM, you can bridge the data from Microsoft Project to those applications. We're also going to have a bridge to Encore Analytics and Power very soon, where you'll be able to configure a little output from Microsoft Project that you can use in Empower. I know many of you are using that tool. We have our own built-in earned value reporting tool. So if you're not using Deltek Cobra, Deltek MPM, and if you can get away with doing what's called EV Lite or EV Express, we've got the tools that'll do that. So So you can post your project's current performance values to SSI Tools EV engine, and then you can run EV Express reports out of Microsoft Project. You can do EV Express reports based on task days. So that'll give you an earned value report using task days as your earned value unit of measure. Or you can use task work or task cost as your earned value unit of measure. If you don't have resources assigned in your project, you can still do an earned value report. Just use task days as the basis. If you have resources assigned but no costs associated with those, no rates in Microsoft Project, you can do an earned value report based on task work. And if you've got rates in Microsoft Project, you can do earned value based on cost. So you get all three of those options. And we could spend a day on the SSI earned value reports. But if anybody has a need for that, earned value light, earned value express, whatever you want to call it, contact me, reach out to me, and before you go, have to spend money on some expensive earned value tool, maybe you already have something that'll satisfy your needs. Maybe not, but you might. Then we've got QBD tools. So I've always wished for many years that I could split the screen in Microsoft Project and make a list of steps associated with each task. So I've always wished that I could select, one of the longer duration tasks in the project and provide a list of steps associated with that. And you can't really do that. Microsoft Project just doesn't give you any place to do that. I suppose you could do it in the notes field. I've done that sometimes where I've gone into the notes field and said, hey, this this task here that's 15 days in the schedule, it really consists of these steps. The other option is you can use the QBD tools. So you can say, for example, I want to find all of the tasks in the project that have a baseline duration greater than 15 days, and I want to list all of those. So it'll make a list of everything that has a baseline duration longer than 15 days. And then you can go in and create steps that are associated with those using the SSI QBD tool. It keeps these outside of Microsoft Project in a database. So it keeps these separate from Microsoft Project, but they're linked to the project by the project title, and they're linked to the task by the task unique ID. So if I've got a task called Develop, Test, and Evaluation Master Plan, and if I've created a template for, let's say that's a report or some type of a CDRL or SDRL that I deliver to the customer, and so I've created example steps for that type of a task. I just click that button, and it says, okay, that you're going to start that, and you're going to get 10% for starting it. You're going to submit that for a peer review, and you're going to get 25% for that. And you're going to update after the peer review and submit for the final review, and then you're going to complete it. And that's how you're going to get to 100% for that task. And normally that would go into the physical percent complete column in Microsoft Project as you complete these. So as you mark these as complete, you book the result into physical percent complete. So if I've completed the first two, it's going to book 35% in physical percent complete. You can export your QBD steps. You can import QBD steps. You can, once you've created QBD steps for a task, for any particular task, you can copy those and paste those to any other tasks that are similar to that use the same steps. So that'll just take this list of steps and copy it to these tasks. So lots of different ways of getting the QBD steps onto the tasks. This is integrated really well with our statusing tool. So that status tool I showed you in Excel can be integrated with this QBD tool, and so the status sheets can show all of the QBD steps as well as the Microsoft Project tasks. Anyway, if you use this, if you're subject to certain types of audits, IBRs, DCMA surveillance audits, if you show them that you're using this kind of a tool here, you'll score extra points on your review because they like to see that you've got some kind of an approach or a a valid way of not just arbitrarily taking percent complete on long duration tasks. Rather, you've assigned discrete little steps, and that's how you take your percent complete. And that's called QBD, or quantifiable backup data, if you haven't heard that term before. MultiProject Tools. So we've got nice little MultiProject Tools where you can identify inputs and outputs that cross project domains. So let's say you've got 2 different projects and you're going to share an item from one project and give it to another project. We've got MultiProject Tools that enable all of that. This is another one where we could spend a significant amount of time looking at it. And we do have, from time to time, we do training sessions on these MultiProject Tools. I'm going to just show you one little demonstration of how I like to use this tool. And I'm going to do that by using an example project file that I have open here that looks like this. So this is an example of something that might be perhaps a manager's view of 3 projects. Project 1, Project 2, and Project 3. Each of these projects might have 1,000 or 10,000 Microsoft project line items, but as a manager, I'm only interested in these milestones. So this is the only thing. If everything that falls in between these lines, that's your business. But I want to know, are we going to make our PDR date and our CDR date and our TRR, and are we going to have our operational readiness review, and are we going to receive our authority to operate if that's the milestones associated with this project. And the way what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go query each of those projects. So I opened up the tool called Sync Remote Projects, and I'm going to go open up each of those projects, look for these dates, look for these milestones based on this code that I put in here. So everybody's got this special code that so P1.1 tracks to contract award received from the customer. P1.9 tracks to receive authority to operate. And the detailed project has the same code for the corresponding milestone. And what I want to do right now is I want to go get the dates from those projects without having to open each one individually and search for them. So this will open them, search for those dates for me, and go fetch those dates. And I told it to record those dates in this column right here, dates from remote project, so that I could look at them, evaluate them, and maybe make some management decisions on that. But I could have just as easily put it into the finish date column. And so I'm gonna go back and do that now. So I'm gonna come back over here and redo that. So instead of putting them into this column right here, where it just gives me an opportunity to look at them before I say, well, that's the date. Or rather, I'm going to just go ahead and pop those into the finish date field, and I'll have it do that. And I've configured this so that it tells me anything that slipped shows up in red, and anything that was accelerated shows up in blue with these type of icons and indicators. So red means that I've breached the deadline, and blue means that I've accelerated the date relative to the deadline. So these projects are doing really well. This one's not so much, and so I could communicate that back to the project, because I can post dates to the projects as well. I can pull dates from the projects. I can push dates out to the projects using these tools here. If I want to push dates out to the project, I'm going to take all of the dates and put them into their project as a deadline, so that they know that hey, I'm not going to accept the dates that you just gave me. I'm going to revert back to my deadline dates here for all of these tasks, and then I want to push those deadlines back out to you guys. So I'm going to take the dates that are in this project here and push them out to each individual project as a deadline, so I can post. And again, it just automates looking up and finding and copying and pasting, So this just automates that whole process of going and hunting down those dates. You can use a similar approach to synchronize dates between multiple projects. That's why we have it on the multi-project tools menu, because one project might be delivering something that another project is using. Well, you might want to go look that date up in the providing project, or you might want to, the providing project might want to post that date to the receiving projects. And this is just a great way of doing that. And then, of course, we have our example project that we, there's a lot more content here that I can only pique your interest in this tool right here, because we would need to spend more time so that I could show you all of the multi-project tools. But that's as far as I can go today. I do want to show you that we have an example project you can open up. We use this for most of the training sessions. SSI Tools Help, that's great. You can click on that one right there. And that'll take you to all of our end user documentation. The link that I sent you earlier is additional documentation. And then you can always check for updates. Some of you can check for updates, some of you can't. Some of you will be blocked from checking for updates. Your system IT policy will not allow you to check for updates and update on your own. Thanks again for your time and interest in SSI Tools. I look forward to meeting you on a live session by phone or by email sometime in the future. For now, just enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.